You are now listening to the Going North podcast with your host, author and speaker, Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, you're going to hear the voice of a different author share their stories, expertise, and their struggles that they had to overcome in life to leave you inspired to get more out of your life. Be sure to not only listen to this episode, but share with others, connect with the authors, and always advance others to advance yourself. Now let's get on with the show. On this next round of gratitude, I'd like to give a quick shout out and a thank you to my wonderful friend and fellow author and speaker and entrepreneur, Miss Marla Simmons. She is one heck of a fabulous woman who's got a co-author project coming out along with the wonderful Cheryl Wood called The Entrepreneurial Elevation. And in addition to that, she also has a couple other books out on her own, especially one where she also co-authored a book with the legendary Brian Tracy called The Blueprint of Success. So head over there to MarlaSimmons.com, check out all the stuff that she's doing, give her a quick shout out, and be sure to check out that book, Entrepreneurial Elevation, when it comes out in July 2019. And heck, might even have her back on the podcast soon to promote it too. Thanks again, Malika. Keep being an awesome force of nature. And today on the Going North podcast, we're back at you again with another wonderful author from around the wonderful globe. And today is no different because we are celebrating the fact that we got a person who's now a best-selling author. She's part of a even more select group of people known as the Bestsellers Authors Club. And this wonderful author right here, she's been a part of multiple co-author projects. She's an energy healer, and she's a serial entrepreneur. So let's welcome the one, the only MG herself, Miss Marla Goldberg.
Hello, Dom. So the name of the title, the name of the book is titled My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. And you can find it on Amazon. And as for myself, I'm an energy healer, intuitive, speaker, teacher. I host a podcast called Guided Spirit Conversation. And as Dom said, I am the author of the book I just mentioned.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, indeed. It's great to have you on the show. Fellow podcast hosts, been going strong for months on your end, interviewing wonderful people from all over the world, and got your own book out. So what's next for the wonderful Marla?
What's next for me? Well, I'm working on another collaborative book. I am talking to people all over the world regarding my new book and going to be putting on book events for book signings. So I'll be planning right now. I'm going to be in LA, Arizona, Colorado, New York, and North Carolina, as well as Wisconsin and Illinois.
Oh, wow.
To be determined. Yes.
Nice.
Thank you.
That's awesome. A national tour. This is fabulous. All right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, I think this is a book that could help many people. And so I'd like that's my goal and that's my mission, is to hope that somebody's journey to loving themselves is shorter than mine was. Mine took a long time. And so that's why I wrote the book, was to, it started out with my telling my story, but I thought that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to have a purpose. And I wanted to have a purpose. So I included 14 of my most favorite and powerful tips, tools, and techniques, or I call them the TTTs, in the back of the book. And then I interject them into my story. So prior to learning my TTTs, I would interject where I would think they would be needed and the ones that I would have used if I had known about them. And then once I learned about my tips, tools, added those to my life, because I'm trained in over 24 modalities, I show where I actually did use them and what I did use to help get me through very challenging times, learn, to help me learn to forgive others as well as myself. And, we are the hardest people on ourselves. And sometimes we just have a hard time forgiving ourselves for even little things, going into self-acceptance and self-love, as I like to say, totally, warts, wrinkles, and all. And so that was the premise for writing the book and the mission to help others.
And it probably was an extremely long journey, too, because I believe you're in the hospitality business for so long, right?
I was in the hospitality business from the time I was 16 to the time I was out. And during that period of time, I worked in restaurants and catering, off-premise, hotel, private club. And then I had an event management company where I planned corporate events nationwide for a number of years.
That's right. You probably learned all sorts of random tips and techniques about servant leadership and forgot to take care of yourself in the process.
I thought I was taking care of myself, but hindsight is 20/20 when you look back and you sit there and say, well, I thought I loved myself, but the decisions I made showed that I really didn't love myself. Because if I did, I would have made decisions that served me much better than the ones I made. I made a lot. I thought I was doing things and being very conscious of my decisions, and in a way, I was. But on the other side of it, the decisions just were not good. And they taught me lessons I needed to learn. I did things the hard way, but it got me to where I am today, and that's where my gratitude, takes hold. Is that I went through it. I finally learned from it. Because if you don't learn it the first time, you're going to have the same lesson over and over again in different ways until you learn the lesson. Once you learn the lesson, you're then able to move on to the next lesson and to the next step up, because every lesson is, you could look at it as a rung of stairs, and you're going on to the next stair, the next plateau, the next level.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Step after step. And sometimes you feel like you're just climbing them steps forever, right?
Well, it depends how much how much you've got going on, but sometimes it does feel that way. And when you don't learn the lesson, it feels like you're a hamster on a wheel. Like, where's the trajectory of my life? I'm stuck. I'm not going anywhere. And that's where some of these TTTs can help break you from that habitual circling the same situation over and over again, and take you to your next lesson, which you really would like to do, because that means there's growth happening. When you've learned something and you're on to the next, there's learning, there's education, there's growth, there's opportunity.
That's right. Opportunity for all sorts of personal growth, and being able to wake up one day and be like, yeah, I love me, and just give yourself a hug.
Exactly. One day you do realize that you actually do love yourself, and when you do, then your boundaries become a little bit more defined, and you know yourself, and you know what works and what doesn't work, and what you'll accept and what you won't accept. Then taking, in the past, like there were things that would happen, and today I would never accept those things. I have more boundaries than I did before. And boundaries are not a negative thing. In my world, boundaries are very positive and helpful.
I'm guessing boundaries, like time boundaries, relationship boundaries, stuff like that.
Everywhere in your life. Even so much as if you volunteer, and you love volunteering, but once you do that, people you feel taken advantage of, you can put a boundary on that as well. So you're not overextending yourself because you can't say no. And then, that's an area of boundary. There's some people that just don't know how to say no, and they just say yes to everything, even to things that are just not going to serve them in the long run, or drain them of their energy without any type of reward, any type of support, of acknowledgement.
Yeah, that's right. Got to put down the General Mills moments and stop being serial about everything. Volunteerism, baby. That's right. Yeah, I was guilty of that myself at one point. It's like, yeah, you got this big old project, needs somebody. All right, time to pull the General Mills hat. It's great. Got you covered, baby. That's right. And then a few months later, like, oh, man, I don't even got myself covered. What the fudge?
Exactly.
And the good news is, dude, go more deeper into the boundaries in the book of, like, what to keep in mind for those who may be serial volunteers for everything, and other folks like that always like to help without actually making sure checking in with themselves.
Oh, so it's boundaries in all areas of your life. So, for example, if you have children, learning to, if you say no, meaning it's no, or don't say no. If your child wants something and you say, if you don't stop, I'm not going to give, you won't get this, and then you give it to them, they just know that they can do a certain thing and chip away at you to get what they want. And then you end up being frustrated and exhausted and feel taken for granted or taken advantage of. Kids need to know what no means. Kids need to have boundaries. But you as a parent also have to have those boundaries. And, they call it tough love for a reason. It's really hard to stand in your power. It's really difficult to, say something to a child and then keep it. And so I'll give you an example. I adopted my first husband's children, and raising them was not easy because they had no boundaries, they had no guidance. They were really, it was like a free-for-all. It was like a boys' free-for-all club in the household I walked into. And learning to put down boundaries to help them grow and to understand things was not easy because I had to be prepared that if I made a statement that I would hold my ground, hold my statement. Opposed to another person I know who parented children who, she would yell at her kids and threaten them and then give them what she threatened they wouldn't get to begin with. Well, the kids grew up and they still know how to manipulate their mother, where I don't have that situation. I mean, my boundaries are very delineated, and I wouldn't take the children I raised and adopted, them talking to me in a certain way. I wouldn't tolerate it because as a parent, I'm doing for your best and highest good. I'm not doing it for mine because I've already gotten past those stages, making me an adult. So that's another area of boundaries and an example.
Oh, there you go. So now you're fully adulting.
Most of the time. I do let my inner child come out and play quite a bit.
That's what I'm talking about. That's right. That's right. It's like having your cake and eating it too. Well, I guess not in this case. Since we had that conversation before the interview.
Well, that was the other conversation we were having.
That's right. Chocolate chips and apple pie cupcakes.
There you go. They were really good when I had my bakery.
Oh, yeah. So what made you want to stop having the bakery?
That's a story. I really didn't want to stop having the bakery, but it's interesting. I ended up getting really sick of a bad virus or flu, and it was at the same time that I had hired somebody, and she kept saying, I'm going to be moving. So it sounded to me like she wanted a day off because we had an agreement. And then my baker who was leaving, he had given me a month's notice. He was wonderful. Said, you do know tomorrow's her last day, don't you? And I'm like, what? And she left me high and dry, and I had this raging fever. I actually had to come in and work for 2 days. I mean, for just a very small order, it took me 17 hours to make 7 dozen cupcakes because I had to do batters and buttercreams for each one. And it took me probably a month to get over it. And by that time, I had been trying to find a baker. I couldn't find somebody, and it was like I was not physically able to do the actual baking because I was in a car accident, and my back and neck were, so that's why I relied on bakers. I was an R&D person. I could help with research and development, but I would not do the physical baking. I would oversee. And so I ended up being put in a really bad position and ended up, taking a major hit because of it. And so, I just felt like, okay, if I was closed for this much period of time, I've lost momentum. And people wouldn't be able to trust me to be able to follow through on giving them their orders on time. And so I just felt it was better to just go to the next thing than to try and do this again.
Wow.
So that's what happened to my bakery.
Well,
but I love the bakery. I had so much fun.
That's right, all sorts of fun on the bun, and glad you're still here. My goodness.
Me too. Very happy that I'm here.
Yes, indeed, in more ways than one. My goodness. All right. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been an extremely rough time.
It was very deflating because, I put in a lot of work in sales and marketing, and I was starting to, I opened up a wholesale division, and so I was starting to get calls from restaurants and caterers for our desserts, and then it just, like, before it even took off, I had to shut it down because of that. And it was very expensive because I took a big financial hit with that as well.
Oh, I can imagine.
So that was the bakery, but it was fun. It was pretty.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Dancing desserts like ballerinas. That's right. Yes, indeed.
My store was painted. It looked like if you were in the middle of a buttercream swirl. That's what the paint job of my bakery looked like.
Forget about a sweet tooth, more like a sweet mouth at this point.
Sweet memories. Lots of desserts.
We'll have to find some chocolate chip cookies after this interview now.
You've been craving those for quite a few minutes.
Oh, man. Whew. Well, the good news about it is that you're able to bounce back from that and then bounce your way into book publishing. So any advice for those who are looking to write and publish their first book? Because it looks like you have the best of both worlds. You got your own book, and then you have the collaboration project. So any advice for those looking to write the first book?
Well, my feeling is do it. There's ways of doing it that are not super expensive. And if you have something that you want to share, I'm all for you doing it. And depending upon who the writer is and what the subject is, you can make it fun, and you don't have to make it a standard book, but it can still have a story, and it can still have content in it. But I will say have fun with the process. I wouldn't get so serious and intense with it that you lose all the flavor of fun in your life. Enjoy the process. And you can look online and learn how to self-publish, and there's a lot of people out there that can guide you and help you write and publish a book as well. And if you want to know that information, email me at marla@mghealer.com, and I'll be more than happy to refer you out.
Oh, yeah, and probably give them some healing, too, during the process, huh?
Well, I am an energy healer, so I do work with clients and helping them with their problems, their situations, the trajectory of their life. And as I mentioned, I'm trained in 24 different techniques, but I primarily use 4 in my work with individuals.
There we go. So we got a Marla of many trades and many talents, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Book coaching and energy healing, all in one package, maybe.
All in one package.
Woohoo! And the beautiful thing about it is she's also a best-selling author, so there you go. She could even help you market afterwards.
Thank you.
Maybe.
Yes, the book is a bestseller in 3 categories, so I was on Amazon. I was absolutely humbled and honored and excited that I can now say that about my book. Because when you write a book, you don't think about, what status it's going to have. You just think about getting your message out, whether it's, biographical or whether you want to be self-help, or maybe it's a technical book or a how-to book. You want to get the information out, but when it does become a bestseller, it's just it was such an unusual and joyful time. It was a moment like, wow, little old me did this. That's how I felt.
That's right. Little old you, more like the marvelous you. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And the good news is it's not even over yet because you got another project coming out. Mind going deeper into what we may have to look forward to with that one?
Well, it's the kindness. The book is the Kindness Project, and it will be coming out probably either in December or early January. And Kindness Crusader is really what the book is called. And it's a book about kindness. And that's what I'll be writing about is, because kindness is like manners. You can't be too kind, and you can't have too many manners. And kindness gets you a lot. It doesn't cost a thing to be nice. It doesn't cost a thing to be kind. To even do a random act of kindness for somebody who might need help. So not only do you chalk one up in, your Akashic records, but it feels good to help. It feels good to be kind to people. I can't imagine mean people really feeling good while they're being mean to people. It doesn't work. They can't feel good.
I love that title, The Kindness Crusader. That is amazing.
Thank you. I didn't make it up, but I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, so are you and the rest of the authors going to be wearing some shining armor in the cover?
No, the cover is going to be a little different. I don't think the artwork for the cover is done as of yet, but we'll find out. So if people want to follow me on Facebook, and you can find me under marla.goldberg.9 on Facebook, keep in touch and you'll be able to see when the book is launched.
Oh, yeah, I could just see it now. It's like all of you just got on these suits of armor on the cover, and then it just says kindness everywhere. It says kindness on the lance and the sword, and then got kindness on the helmet, and there's like a giant heart at the top.
Kindness is good. Again, you can't go wrong with too much kindness.
Woohoo! Yes, indeed. I definitely agree with that. So any advice for those who are looking to become a part of a co-author project? That seems to be pretty popular nowadays, and it's an easy route to go through because you don't have to worry about taking on a whole entire project on your own. It doesn't seem as daunting. So any advice for those who are looking to do a co-author project with somebody to take off some of the legwork in a way?
Mine tend to fall into my lap, but I think that if you join groups, on Facebook of your interest. You might find somebody who might want to write a book, and you can approach people and say, would you like to do a collaborative? And that, again, everything's on Google or on YouTube. You can learn anything on how to do it. But ask somebody if they'd like to start with you and do it, and then you put it out for other people. You figure out what your expenses are going to be, what it's going to cost to produce this book, and then that's what their chapter will cost them. And if you get enough people, it should pay for the basic book, and then everybody orders books, and once it's done, so that they can sell them on their website or use them as promotional items. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, makes sense indeed. Makes sense indeed. Especially with the promotional cost, that's the main thing that a lot of folks don't think about.
The cost is number one. You have to find out how much it's going to cost you to do, how much each chapter will cost, and then whatever that chapter, whatever that chapter costs, that's what you pass on to the author. Or, you add your profit on it and pass that off to the author. You have to make sure you take care of yourself.
That's right. So it won't be a long journey to do so, right?
Exactly. It's trying to shorten their journey by making the learning curve easier, giving more tools, tips, and techniques at their at their fingertips.
Yes, indeed. It should only be as long as a prairie dog, but not a wiener dog.
Oh my.
Yeah, bad joke or no. Oh, man. Well,
Very funny.
Oh, beautiful. Well, alrighty. So with all this magical journey and now with the 2020 vision of hindsight, if you were to go back in time, but instead you get to be in the current year of 2019 at the current age of 25, what advice would you give to yourself?
Don't be so serious and intense. Then the one thing you can count on in life is change, because everything is really temporary. It flows. And if you're going through a situation, stop trying to push through it and allow it, pay attention to it, because it's going to change. Your circumstance will change. And, go with the flow. I was, as a serial entrepreneur, I was always in my head. I was always working. I was always, the wheels were always going. And so now I just go with flow more. And if something comes up, I sort of sit and see where it's going before taking action. So I don't do as much knee-jerk as I used to. And that's what I would do, and I would tell my 25-year-old self.
There you go. That's right. Let the inner child come out every now and then. At least a good part of the inner child.
Absolutely.
Right?
Got to have that inner child play a little bit, and it's fun. If you haven't done it in a long time, it's fun to play those games that you used to play as a child, whatever they might be, or put your feet in sand and wiggle your toes in it, and play with the water at the beach if the water's warm enough. Play with kids. Kids are so free in spirit, and they just are so inquisitive. And step back and stop being the adult you are, and try being follow the the guidance of a child by what they do and what they see and how they look at things.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. Yes, indeed, and keeps your mind fresh, especially with their inquisitiveness. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that, and, among other things.
It definitely keeps your mind fresh, and it keeps your heart open. It keeps your heart youthful.
Oh, yeah. So for those who want to keep their youth up and keep up with all that you're doing, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So if you'd like to find out more about what I do, my website is www.marlagoldberg.net. And again, if you'd like to reach out to me by email, my email address is Marla at M like Marla, G like Goldberg, healer, HEALER.com. And I hope to hear from you.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. It's great to have the marvelous Marla on the podcast. Be sure to go on ahead and head over to Amazon.com and pick up a copy of her book, My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, so that way you can have that guide to a shorter path of making sure you remember to take care of yourself when you take care of others, so that way you can stay energized to continue to take care of others too. And check out all of her other wonderful goodies that she's offering and all that she's doing. And be sure to subscribe to her Guided Spirit Conversations podcast too. She has a lot of guests on there, and it's a lot of great conversations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Don.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. So any parting words for the wonderful listener?
So I think in parting, what I'd love for you to do, and I invite you to do this as maybe a challenge, but to be more open to who you are and accepting yourself, as I like to say, warts, wrinkles, and all. And maybe, try doing some gratitude work. Gratitude is, it literally rewires your brain, and it makes one happier if you start a gratitude practice. And it's not difficult. You can just write down 3 things in the morning or 3 things at night, or you can do something more comprehensive and make it longer and more detailed. But the only thing I can suggest is please just start by doing some gratitude work. You'll find that your heart shifts, your mind shifts, and you really end up becoming a happier individual.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books. Be sure to check out the rest of the backlog too while you're at it, and share all those too. And in order to make the rest of your week the best of your week, remember to advance others, to advance yourself.